soggy start to your day in the southeastern United States. Little storm system moving through the Carolinas, dumping a lot of rain, places that really could use some rain. Midlands of South Carolina, we picked up over an inch early this morning around Columbia. Meanwhile, in the plains, a weak front moving south behind it, a little bit cooler. In the northwest, it's dry for now, but fog is a real big problem. As we close in on the southeastern U.S., take a look at the rain. It's blossoming here up to southeastern North Carolina. The real heavy rain moving through the Midlands of South Carolina, headed down to the low country. Look at this line, heavy rain and thunderstorms. Really getting pounded here over towards I-95. More details on the storm system and its impacts on the southeast, you can always check our homepage at AccuWeather.com. Cool air behind our storm system, but here in South Florida, still nice and warm today. In the northeast, the chill remains. In the plains, the front sliding south of clouds, a bit breezy and a bit cooler behind it. And the northwest, with stagnant conditions, moisture in the valleys, pretty foggy. Better weather this afternoon. I'm Mark Mancuso.
Updated November temperature forecast. We call it the 30-day temperature forecast. Notice which way we're going here. This is kind of an early El Nino scenario. Now, some weather forecasters think El Nino's fading. Others think it may come back. That's going to have a direct influence on our weather patterns. We'll keep an eye on that. The coldest spot compared to normal is going to be down here in the state of Florida, down in the southeast. But no
start to your day in the southeast United States. Little storm system moving through the Carolinas, dumping a lot of rain, places that really could use some rain. Midlands of South Carolina, we picked up over an inch early this morning around Columbia. Meanwhile, the plains, a weak front moving south behind it, a little bit cooler. In the northwest, it's dry for now, but fog is a real big problem. As we close in on the southeastern U.S., take a look at the rain. It's blossoming here up to southeastern North Carolina. The real heavy rain moving through the Midlands of South Carolina, headed down to the low country. Look at this line, heavy rain and thunderstorms. Really getting pounded here over towards I. On the storm center. Our homepage. Cool air behind our storms. Here in South Florida, still nice and warm today. In the northeast, the chill remains. In the plains, the front sliding south of clouds, a bit breezy and a bit cooler behind it. And the northwest, with stagnant conditions, moisture in the valleys, pretty foggy. Better weather this afternoon. I'm Mark Mancuso.
Updated November temperature forecast. We call it the 30-day temperature forecast. Notice which way we're going here. This is kind of an early El Nino scenario. Now, some weather forecasters think El Nino's fading. Others think it may come back. That's going to have a direct influence on our weather patterns. We'll keep an eye on that. The coldest spot compared to normal is going to be down here in the state of Florida, down in the southeast. But notice how warm it is compared to normal in the southwest. So that's so typical for this time of year. Now, for us, we'll see swings in the temperature. It warms up, it gets colder. But I'm seeing some early evidence that as you get towards the last week and 10 days of November, towards Thanksgiving and beyond, a more colder weather pattern may develop. So eventually you may have to paint some below normal temperatures right on top of us towards the end of the month. Of course, we'll keep you up to date.
At 13 ABC, we want to bring you the news. You want it, you expect it, you deserve it. The big stories that happened overnight and that are happening that day. Plus dependable forecasts and updated traffic conditions. Start your day right. Wake up with 13 ABC Action News.
Hi, I'm Dr. Vernon Davis.
And I'm Professor Vontae Davis.
And I'm the voiceover that corrects everything they say. And they're neither doctors nor professors.
Let's talk about New Arctic Ease. It really helps me to heal after gas.
It uses magic.
No, Vontae, it just works like magic.
No, it's magic. It gets cold without ice or chemicals.
No, it's a new technology that eases sore joints and muscles.
Then it must be aliens.
Oh, Arctic Ease. Bag the ice, ease the pain.
It's easy to take your air conditioning for granted until it stops working on a miserably hot day. So here's some tips on maintaining your AC so you can stay cool this summer. Make sure all dirt and debris is removed from around your air conditioning unit, and check your unit's air filter at least once a month and replace filters as necessary. Keeping the filter clean can also lower your AC's energy consumption by 5 to 15%. Keep your condensation line clear of mold and mildew. You can do this by pouring in a small amount of household bleach.
tranquil from here on in. As we check out the flow, strong westerlies here out across the Atlantic. That's helping to prevent any tropical development here this week. We do have a couple areas of concern, though, out here in the eastern Atlantic. Some rough conditions with this upper low. This storm system headed up past the Maritimes, and a new little storm developing off the southeast coast. So we will be looking at some rough seas out here across the central and south central Atlantic. There is a weak trough moving through the eastern Caribbean. As it moves west, we'll start to see some drier conditions around Puerto Rico and the Virgin Islands. Continuing westward, we'll see a band of showers and thunderstorms stretching across the central Caribbean. As you head west towards the Yucatan, all is quiet. Remnants of a front kind of fizzling out in the Gulf, but a system developing off the southeast that will give us some rain and some rough seas. Tropical East Pacific, all's quiet here. A storm system well to the north that'll weaken as it heads towards California. Quiet farther south.
It was a quick start to the 2012 hurricane season. By the end of June, 4 storms were already named. The season remained active with well above average numbers. A normal year only names 12 storms.
Well, we thought El Nino would start showing up, bringing shear into the tropics. That didn't happen, so we had great conditions for tropical development all the way through October.
There were a total of 19 named storms, 10 of them hurricanes. Out of those, there were 4 impacts to the U.S. The first to make landfall was Beryl and then Debbie. Both storms delivered heavy rain and gusty winds to the southeast. Isaac first made headlines when it passed over the southern part of the Dominican Republic, causing extensive flooding. Isaac made landfall as a hurricane in Louisiana August 28th and produced widespread flooding. Sandy was the next hurricane to make landfall in the U.S. on October 29th. It caused catastrophic storm surge from the Jersey coast into New York City and New England. Travel and communication was compromised. While the number of storms that formed were impressive, the season will be remembered by the damage produced from only 2 of those storms. Reporting for AccuWeather.com, I'm Valerie Smock.
Still unseasonably cool temperatures, but slowly warming up to the normal high of 50 for the upcoming weekend, and that's certainly good. Light winds in the forecast makes it feel even nicer. A bit of a sun-cloud mix in our forecast for today. In fact, next couple of days, no rain or snow on the extended forecast for the next 5, likely 7 days, the way it appears. Hourcast for today, around noon, we'll call it some upper 30s, sun-cloud mix. Around 42 later on this afternoon can be expected, and then around 35 as we approach sunset in the evening, then around 33 later tonight. 13 ABC predictor shows that sun-cloud mix rolls in every once in a while. It becomes cloudy, then it becomes partly sunny. So typical for this time of year. There's a time clock right there. So it looks like the high temperature today will be around 42 degrees, sun-cloud mix.
When severe weather strikes, see it, shoot it, and send it to 13ABC Action News. Get connected. Send your pictures or video to pictures@13abc.com, and you can be part of the 13ABC Action News team. At 13ABC, we want to bring you the news. You want it,
brought to you by our newest app, AccuWeather for Windows 8. In the northwest, we're drying it up, but a lot of leftover moisture in the valleys. Fog will be thick, so problems morning hours, Boise, Spokane, and over towards Seattle and Portland. Watch for delays here. After that, we'll be all right. Farther south, just a few clouds coming into California. We think it'll stay dry. Not looking for any problems for today. Across the Plains states, there is...
I wanted to walk through the show real quick for everybody. Oh, go ahead, Derek. I'm sorry.
What do I got to do?
And Dr. Dobrikowski, let me have you take your seat just a tad
Like
that
that?
way. Yeah, exactly. There you go. Derek, is that too much? There you go. Derek's got to run triple duty today. Apparently, we're a little short-staffed. But this is like the old days when I didn't have anybody in here at all. It was just me talking to somebody in my ear. First and foremost, thank you so much. I appreciate you guys doing this. And anybody who I worked through, please extend my gratitude to them as well, because I am increasingly intrigued by doing shows about the economy, basically how it affects jobs, the economy, and so forth. And as we move forward, and bringing on some of the players in Northwest Ohio, and I mean that's what it says at the opening of our show. So you guys, it's very much appreciative of you being here. At no time do I want you guys to feel compelled to have to look at the camera. I don't want anybody to be nervous, even though we're not in our pajamas or sweats. This is just like me inviting you over, and we're just going to have a roundtable conversation, although I don't have any quiche or anything to offer you this morning.
Where's the food?
I know.
Where's the donuts?
You know what? You've got to get Rebecca to bring you on full plate, because they make something every week, whether it's bad for you, good for you, and Derek eats like a champ every week when he works that show. He knows Thursdays are a downer of a day because there's no food.
I like food.
Anyway, I will do a quick introduction, and then I will engage all of you in conversation, but I don't want you to feel compelled to wait for me to call on you, because that's not how it's going to work. I want if Dr. Okay, all right, Dr. Dobrikowski, if Mark says something that you want to jump in on, or Lori, you say something that Vicki, you want to jump in on, please do so. Don't wait for me to call on you. Real quick, I was just here in command. We're going to go around the table and just do microphone checks. So just say your first and last name and count to 10. Mark, go ahead and start.
Mark Valerius, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
Okay. Lori, go ahead.
Lori Gross, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
Wonderful. Lori, if I were to put a title, would I put owner?
Put president.
President. Okay. Mark, can you change that for me in the CGs for Ms. Gross? Okay, wonderful. Thank you. Vicki, go ahead.
Vicki Riddick, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
They said you did a good job. Go ahead.
David Dobrikowski, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
Nailed it.
Those equal intervals. You know, I was in marching band, so I was trying to get them right.
The pacing's important, and so is the inflection. we find that in TV. I have put together as much as I could, as you guys saw on the preface page that I sent out, just trying to cover our parameters as far as what's being said out there. The thing, and I caution on a lot of the stuff I sent out, because a lot of it was opinion-based. A lot of it's editorials that are going through newspapers. Mark, and what I was talking with Jeff Cole about was the thing that freedomworks.org put out weeks ago, right before, or I think it may have been a day or two before or a day or two after the election, regarding Dana's moves. And I'd like for you to just, even though I know we've done that story, I'm going to read what was out there, and I know you're privy to it, correct? As far as what was the thought and where that came from and all that, and we'll move on from that. But, and then everybody else, it's just, the interesting thing when I was talking with John with UT is just, I felt like I had hit a home run unknowingly with the school and what the school is to be about, and how it, I don't know if it was the chicken or the egg, and I want to cover that when we get into it, as far as, did you guys see the writing on the wall? Is that why a school such as what you will be director of is created? Or is it kind of a fluke and it just so happened that way? I'm thinking it's probably the former versus the latter.
Well, do you want to answer it?
Well, I mean, we're just kind of chit-chatting.
Yeah, well, the reality is, you know, regardless of what happened legislatively with healthcare reform, the industry is facing tremendous pressure for cost, quality, and so forth. You know, the time is right to improve healthcare delivery with or without healthcare reform. It has to happen.
Yeah.
And that's really the fundamental purpose of the school.
Hey, Derek, can you start tight for the beginning and man that camera and then zoom out? Is that possible?
Yeah.
Okay. Is that all right, Jonathan?
They don't know. I can hear him, but he ain't got. He don't have my mic on.
Okay. Yeah, if everybody could take a look at the screen, we want to just make sure that spelling and everything is okay. Also, Jonathan, Derek said that he can hear you, but you can't hear him. We're good on Mr. Valerius.
Okay.
Okay. Check.
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 Looks good. Yeah, I'm sorry.
Okay.
I have more
Smaller
work to do
font.
there. So.
Yeah, you
that's
have,
okay.
you have a lot.
You know,
It
with
is
12 letters in
small.
your last name, you know.
Well, that was it.
I got to tell you, it was
We were getting, you notice nobody said anything. We were giving you time.
It was a long
We
kindergarten
saw
year.
the
I'll tell you,
scramble
you should have
book.
seen the size of my name tag.
I'm sorry, Jonathan. Well, I don't know. Hey, what's the short form? Short form.
You could,
Just getting rid of
could
school
use,
of?
You could use healthcare as one word. That would help.
Okay. You could get rid of the
perhaps-
space in healthcare, he said.
Yeah, you could use just UT, comma, School of Healthcare Business Innovation and Excellence.
Okay, he said you can drop the director. Mm-hmm. Is there one entry in the phone book?
I don't know. Does it make more sense to, what's that?
Is there one entry of Dobrikowski in the phone book?
Well, my folks are
Okay.
fortunately still with us, you know. But interesting story. I grew up like 2 miles from a fellow named David Dombrowski, like the Tigers,
Oh, yeah,
Dombrowski.
yeah.
And we went to the same dentist.
Oh.
So we had a heck of a time with medical records, you know,
Yeah.
and so forth. One time I showed up to the dentist and the fellow said, "Boy, you've lost a lot of weight." And I said, "Man, I really like you." You know, he's unfortunately had the wrong.
Hey, Bob, do you want
file.
Bob or Robert on air? Okay, we're good there. All right.
Is it more important, do you think, to abbreviate maybe innovation or business?
I think people know the abbreviation for business. They might not know the
Yeah,
abbreviation for
INN may throw them
innovation.
off, or IN. What would you go with? INV?
INNOV or something.
Yeah.
I don't know, but that's fine.
All right.
You guys know more than I do, so that's great.
I don't know. Sometimes I wonder. All those media types.
A lot of times we'll just refer to it as the healthcare business school.
Mm-hmm.
showed you this 24-hour temperature change map. It was in the double digits going downward.
The following is a presentation of 13ABC Action News. Now, your table is ready. Join 13ABC's Jeff Smith with the decision makers of Northwest Ohio and Southeast Michigan. This is the Roundtable.
And hi, good afternoon. Thank you so much for joining us here on this Sunday, just a few days away from a holiday weekend. We appreciate you spending part of your Sunday with us. Well, if you have a job and you're watching us this afternoon, there's a chance right now you are possibly at your business going through the open enrollment period, and that is, of course, for health insurance. Now, if you don't have a job, we feel for you out there. We know there are still many of you out there looking for work, but the reality of it all is that the job you may be searching for might not be there in the long run because of what companies are going through, having to pay for health insurance and make sure that all their employees are covered. Some of those companies out there nowadays say they just can't afford it. And of course, through the last couple of weeks, you have heard this, of course, with the talk of the election and the Affordable Health Care Act, which kicks in phases over the next 2 years. It's designed so that every person who wants health insurance gets it. But the question is, at what cost? Those enrollment periods for you, you might be in some sticker shock because of the facts and figures and the fees. But we want to take a look at some of the statistics that we are seeing. So let's show you what employers here in the U.S. expect their health insurance to cost over the next year or so. Insurers are saying, employers saying that they expect their costs to go up by about 7%. 60% say workers will pay more. Walmart, for example, saying that their costs could jump anywhere between 8% and 36% just to have health insurance on board. Papa John's been in the news lately. They are saying how they are going to have to raise prices and reduce hours for their workforce just so they can make it by. Obviously, a large company there with the focus here nationally, but we want to turn our focus locally, and we are so pleased to have with us a number of great guests this afternoon here for our program. First, the VP of Compensation and Benefits at the Dana Holding Corporation, Mark Valerius. We appreciate you taking some time. Next to him, Lori Gross, President of Gross Electric. Pleasure to both of you. Thank you so much for being here. Also with us today, because as we talk about health care, we talk about getting healthy and maybe avoiding those health care premiums altogether. Vicki Riddick, she is over at the University of Toledo, Senior Wellness Officer, and also Dr. David Dobrikowski. He is the director of the new School of Healthcare Business Innovation and Excellence, and that was announced in October. We will get more into that program in just a bit. But as we begin here, Mark, and I'll start with you. As the election came around, there was a lot of talk about how some companies just weren't going to be able to make it. Some of that talk came up about Dana and how it had put forth to its employees saying that, no, we're going to have to cut costs, we're going to have to cut employees. You say that's not necessarily the case, but there is that pink elephant in the room as far as what health insurance means to a major employer.
Well, that is true, Jeff. Health care costs is part of our labor costs. And it goes in just like other costs to attract employees and maintain and retain them. The thing to remember, though, is there's other costs that are involved, especially in our industry, that are factors in how we look at the future and how Dana is going to continue to provide the best products for our customers at the lowest possible cost as well. So we will look at creative ways before we look at any type of layoffs or downsizing or right-sizing, whatever you want to call it, in order to get to that point.
And as of late, in fact, it wasn't too long ago, Barclays looked at Dana and said, you guys are on the right track back from bankruptcy protection and what Dana is doing right now. So obviously, the increased costs are of a concern as you move forward, and we're looking globally in scope.
Yeah, we can't look at things short-term anymore. I mean, we have to look out 5, 7, 10 years out, and in particular in healthcare. I mean, with the healthcare law changes, healthcare reform, there are years in which the certain things impact companies. Like, for example, 2014 with the exchanges, 2018 with the Cadillac tax. Those are type of things that we have to look at. We have to plan for those going forward. And what type of plan we want to design for our workforce to attract and maintain and retain them.
For a major corporation like Dana, when you look at some of the figures we put out there, 7% increases next year, is that on par with what you guys were already figuring?
That's about 6 or 7%. We just rolled out a very aggressive wellness program and I'm sure we're going to talk about that a little later, that we're very excited about. It's called Accelerate Your Health, where we look at biometric screenings, activities. It's got our, from top down, senior leadership involvement on the program. There are incentives that we provide employees to take the blood test, the biometric screenings. We're hoping that there will be a return on that. There's a lot of studies out there that there will be returns out there. It's a little bit long-term in focus, but now's the right time to do it.
Vicki, so, I wanted to get you in on this. He kind of set the stage for the next topic, and talking about those wellness programs and the need for companies. We're seeing more and more companies doing this. Is this just proactive or reactive?
I think it's really a matter of timing, and you know, I've been in this industry for 20-some years, and we really haven't changed what we're doing. It's really just focusing more on innovation and the delivery of service, and so we really can't do.
And your main goal is to get the UT campus healthier.
Absolutely, students, faculty, and staff, and designing programs cannot be a one-size-fits-all. So a 19-year-old college student is definitely, you know, somewhat different than, you know, a 50-something faculty member. So it can't be a one-size-fits-all, yet it needs to be accessible, and it needs to be you know, available to those folks at really a continuum of care.
Lori, when you look at a smaller company like yours, you have a total of how many employees?
50.
50 employees, and when you look at healthcare costs and how many are you I would assume provide healthcare for your employees, and when you look at the costs that are coming down the line with this Affordable Care Act, and the goal of it is to make more available for less cost. But is that the way you see it flushing out?
It was interesting, Mark and I were just talking, because there's parts of the law that are still up in the air. So we really have no idea what's going to happen in the next couple of years. I know that at this point, our plan just continues to go up year after year. And I'm hoping
co-pays, all of the
premiums, co-pays. We're on a high deductible plan now. We've had to go to make the plan affordable for us and for our people. So overall, I'm hoping it's going to lower our costs, because there's going to be larger pools. When you're a small employer, your pool is very small. So all it takes is 2 or 3 big events like we had last year, and suddenly your plan costs go way up. So I'm hoping that part of the plan will allow us to be part of bigger pools and maybe overall decrease our costs.
I think and I think people will agree, by definition, by design, this is a good idea, but could the timing, and as you look at it, Dr. Dobrikowski, as you look at it and what your school is looking at, bringing in people who are in the healthcare industry to try to manage better for these businesses, but is the timing just bad? Well, I mean, we're coming out of a recession, the Great Recession as it's been called. Especially for Northwest Ohio. Sure. How many visits did we get over the election period? Obviously, something was affecting our economy.
No, quite a few. Well, you know, clearly, with or without healthcare reform, now is the time to improve the delivery of healthcare. You know, we spend a lot of time talking about health insurance costs, and certainly it's health insurance costs that the employer sees. The employer bears, you know, 70% of the cost of providing health insurance. But I think it's also useful to take a step back and think about what drives health insurance costs, right? Certainly there's a trade margin there, but the reality is healthcare costs drive health insurance costs, right? So the real focus ought to be on how we, you know, improve the delivery of healthcare, ultimately reduce costs, but at the same time, there's not necessarily a trade-off between cost and quality. There are, you know, enormous opportunities to improve both cost, quality, and access to care. The Kaiser Foundation released a report that said, you know, in 2015, we're expecting healthcare costs to be at 20% of GDP, $4 trillion. If you think about the delivery of healthcare, up to 40% of the cost of healthcare rests in what we call supply chain or logistics types of activities, materials, right? Estimates are that, so that's 1.6 trillion of the $4 trillion, right? Many folks estimate that half of that can be saved just through more efficient delivery, more streamlined processes and so forth. So that means there's $800 million on the table that we can you know, realize in terms of benefit just through doing what we do better.
I want to bring up something that I found through a newspaper, an editorial down in South Carolina. The writer of this, Lonnie Adamson, and we can show people at home as well, she said, is it possible that the Affordable Care Act will encourage rather than discourage business development. You talked about bringing on jobs. How many people do you know who work for corporations, she says, or small companies, mostly for health insurance? Some work at a wage that provides them a little more money than what is needed to pay health insurance premiums. And she continues, she says, some of those uninsured, of course, are the people who are unhealthy and can't afford to buy health insurance. The cost to the hospitals doesn't simply go away. Of course, insured patients and private pay patients pick up the tab. My question to both of you, Mark and Lori, is the hiring mode. And we are continually talking about we're getting out of this recession. We're starting to see more companies hiring. But when you guys look at throwing this curveball in there, does that, I guess, take your foot off the pedal a little bit? Mark, start.
I mean, when we have opportunities to hire folks in key positions in that, I mean, we kind of look at the entire package, the total rewards package as we call it, where compensation, health care, all the type of benefits that we allow, 401k, life insurance and everything. So we have to look at it in that context. Now we place a lot of value on our plan. We think that our health care plan is very competitive. We market it every other year, an in-depth market, and then we also do surveys every year. So a lot of large employers really take that avenue that, you know, the health care plan, the way it's designed, making sure that it's competitive, is an attraction. I mean, after all, healthcare is the #2 area of compensation that prospective employees value. #1 being compensation. #2 is clearly healthcare. So it's a pretty important part of a large employer.
But isn't it also understandable, Lori, that the bigger pool of employees, the lower the costs go down, just a supply and demand factor, correct? And for you, supplying to 50-some people obviously costs you a little more.
It costs us quite a bit of money. We figure that health insurance is 20%, you know, somewhere between 15 and 20% of the employee cost. We're on that bubble of 50, but at this point we're continuing to hire. We've always provided health insurance, so for us it isn't, well, now we're over this and now we have to provide it and we haven't. So for us it really isn't changing what we're doing from a hiring perspective.
So this isn't a dire time by any stretch of the imagination?
Not
dealing with this?
Because we already offer health insurance. I think for people who have a ton of part-time people and all those people are right on that edge of 30 hours or they're sitting on the edge of 50 people, it might be different.
We're going to talk in our second segment as far as the fast food industry is concerned. Mark, you want to jump in real quick?
I think a lot of it, and from Dana's perspective, is really the industry that's driving how we, you know, how often we hire people, to be honest with you. And again, going back key positions you know, that we would need to fill. But that's really the driver, not really healthcare. Not right now. It may be a part in the future. It depends on the impact on that the new law has, especially, again, years 14 and 18. But I mean, right now, I mean, in the auto industry, there's still some optimism there. A lot of caution, though, too. The crises in Europe, for example, definitely has an impact on how we, you know, what we're forecasting.
So as we go forward, and obviously the mindset, and we've seen it in a lot of the opinion pieces that are out there about the Affordable Health Care Act, maybe the mindset is getting people healthier, and that is the mindset over at the university as well.
Absolutely, and I think that...
But is that easier said than done, I guess? It's a nice concept.
The fact of the matter is that, you know, our society continues to become more unhealthy, and so it's as if we are in this process for the long haul. And as you stated earlier, you know, these lifestyle changes don't happen overnight. You know, you didn't gain 50 pounds in one day, and you're not going to take it off in one day. And so it really...
we do have Thanksgiving coming up in a few days.
Absolutely, and a turkey trot to go along with it.
Well, we walked here from campus.
Okay. Yeah, you're sure. Tell it the way you want.
But it, you know, it's the mindset of individuals taking responsibility of their own personal health and wellness, and how we deliver healthcare is really, you know, the opportunity to train not only physicians, but, you know, our nurses, our pharmacists, our future leaders in the healthcare industry to deliver a preventative and wellness approach.
And David, I'll give you the final word before we go to break. I mean, moving forward, how do you, I guess, tell your students who are coming into your new school and tell them that the work they're going to do is important, is vital, especially what we're seeing right now, and as Mark said, not knowing what 2014 and 2018 are going to bring about?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, there's no question that healthcare providers are, being managed more and more like a business, and that's because they're facing pressures more and more like other industries, like manufacturing faced 20 years ago when we had quite the resurgence in American manufacturing. There are pressures for cost, pressures for quality, pressures for patient satisfaction, and so forth. So what we're doing at UT, at the School of Healthcare Business Innovation and Excellence, is providing a platform for coursework, research, and outreach and engagement that operates really at that intersection of medicine and business. So for example, physicians and other clinical leaders are being asked to do more and more in the area of business planning, in the area of process improvement, in the area of IT implementation now, all designed to try to improve healthcare delivery. Well, they don't necessarily come with that skill set, from a medical training background, right? But when you integrate that training with a business focus, again, at that intersection of healthcare and business, you can see some big benefits and pay some big dividends.
We're going to continue this conversation on the other side of the break. I want to thank all my guests here. Thank you so much for spending some time. We'll be right back right after this. management positions are there, I guess?
Out of the 170?
Yeah.
There's probably 3 or 4 a store.
Okay.